theyeshiva.net.
Yeah, I'm saying we have today the props. We're going to be learning about Eichlin and Mashkin and Tumah and Tahara. So thank you to Bavram. We have plenty of drinks. We have plenty of food. So everything can be tangible. And I could show you the physical props. Okay. Besides eating it, can also be used even for a better tachlis, to understand our shtickle Gemarah. You can enjoy it. Yeah. Okay. So the last 2 days, we gave a brief introduction to Tumah and Tahara, and I say brief because it was brief and very general, a general outline of something that is so intricate and so complex and so detailed and has so many nuances and protim and protim, as the Rambam says clearly in his Akdamah to say the Taharas. And we went through some of the general halachas, and many of them will be discussed in the next sugya, the next 7 blot. And so let's just remember the basics we discussed. Was we wanted to discuss the 3 things which you always have to think about: the source of Tumah, the recipient of the Tumah, and the way they come together. You always want to identify who is giving off the Tumah, who is the father, what we call in halacha, who is the Av HaTumah, and then we want to know who is the child, who is the Vlad HaTumah. That's what we always want to know. I want to know who is Tati, and I want to know who the son is, who is the giver, and who is the recipient. Is he a sheretz? Is he a dead rodent, a mouse, a mole, a rat? Or is he a human corpse, right? Is he a dead horse? Or is he a Mitzayra, a leper? As we said, there's 11 avos hatumah, there's 11 sources of tumah. Always human or animals, always, besides 2 exceptions of clothes or homes that have a leprosy. That's the tati. Then I want to know who the child is. Am I coming in contact with it? Is my shirt coming in contact with it? Is my couch coming in contact with it? Is my bowl coming in contact with it? Is my food coming in contact with it? Or is my mashke as, not mashke, but a mashke as liquid, coming in contact with it? I always want to know which. It can only be 4 things. Only 4 things could become tamei, right? A human being's utensils and clothes, a human being's food, and a human being's beverage. Nothing else can become tamei. And then I want to know how they connected. Did they touch? What was the proximity of the 2 things coming together? And then we can establish the nature of the tumah and how one cleanses from that tumah. Is mikveh enough? Does something have to happen before mikveh? When do I have to go to the mikveh? Can I go the same day? Do I have to wait? Can I go the next night? What type of mikveh? That's also, you have to know every tumah. Now, nothing here is taken out of a sleeve like a magician. Everything has a source. The Chazal, as always, they analyzed every pasuk in the whole Chumash about Tumah and Tahara. And it's from there that they built up the edifice of Tumah. Because there's so many different halachas. Like, where did they get this from? It works this way, doesn't work that way, it's effective. It's not. And the answer is, for everything, there's not a detail that is invented out of thin air. They're always, like in everything in halacha, there has to be an origin and a structure and so forth. No, we're talking about biblical things that you're going to find in Chumash. For rabbinic injunctions of Tumah and Tahara, you have to have a reason. Why would they impose Tumah on something? So there's always a reason, a logic. They were concerned about something. They wanted to create a buffer zone, whatever it is. But there's always a rhythm. There's always a logic to it, right? A logic to it. There's a method, always a method. I believe, I told you many times, I think it's very problematic that when people are taught these things, they don't realize there's a rhythm, there's a structure, there's a big picture. As I said yesterday, there's a forest, not only endless trees, because it gives you an appreciation of it. Even if you don't understand every detail, we have an appreciation for it. Okay. Let's now remember these basic halachas and then start inside. So number one, we want to remember what an Av HaTumah is and what a Vlad HaTumah is, right? We always want to remember that. We also want to remember the fact that a person and utensils can only become Tameh from an Av HaTumah. In other words, a person and Kalim can only be a Rishon, they'll never be a Sheni, biblically speaking, right? If something is a Rishon, for example, if this touched the Sheretz is the Av, this is the Rishon, I'm now not Tameh, because I can't become a Sheni, biblically speaking, and I touched the Rishon. If I touch the Sheretz, I'm a Rishon. But if I touch the cracker that touched the Sheretz, I can't be a Sheni. But if the cracker touched my wine, the wine becomes a Sheni because food and beverages can become Shenis, not a human being and utensils. There are a few exceptions rabbinically, not biblically. Biblically, the human and the kalim stop by Rishon, it doesn't travel further. Does not travel. I can never become Tameh, nor can my jacket become Tameh, nor can my kalim, my utensils become Tameh from a Rishon. We can only be an Av or a Rishon, nothing less. Doesn't travel, it doesn't go on. It's diffused, the energy is gone. The germ, so to speak, the spiritual germ is not transferred further. Food and beverages are much more sensitive. They can pick up even a Rishon. In other words, it travels to Sheni. Truma is even more sensitive. It picks up even from Sheni, it becomes a Shlishi. Karbonis are even more sensitive. They pick up from Shlishi and become a Revi. Chulin, mundane food, will not become a Shlishi or Revi. It doesn't travel. It's not sensitive to these germs. It's mamish like in the, if you know, germs, all these things. It's an incredible science how it works. Like, it's not just about the germ, it's about the keli, who is getting the germ. You know, what type of immune system do you have? How sensitive you are. Truma is so holy, it's very sensitive. You know, like somebody lies to you, it may not be a big thing. But if you're lying in front of the Balatanya, he saw Gehenim. You lie to Yitzchak, he sees Gehenim. It's not other people, they don't even notice it. Some people lie, they don't even realize they lied. Some people lied and they're doing tshuva for 10 years. Why? Because they're very sensitive. Truma is sensitive. It picks up a tumah that this won't pick up because this is chulin. I don't mean chas v'shalom to say that your tikkun is not important, but it's not truma. It's chashav a tikkun, but it's still not truma, right? You're good with that. I don't mean to say this is, chulin is also a gewaldige zach, right? Chulin is also a mesechta kacham. Huh? Das habe ich gehört von Lubavitcher Rebbe. Yeah. He said a moire dicke word. He said, by Yidden is mesechta chulin euch in kacham. By Yidden, mesechta chulin is euch adin in kacham. It's part of kacham. By a Jew, mesechta chulin is in kacham. It's a hafla dicke word. But in any case, but it's still chulin. So that's where Shlishi and Revi come in only for Truma and Kodesh. We also wanted to remember the fact that when I go to the mikveh, I'm Tameh, I touch the sheretz, I go to the mikveh, I come out of the mikveh, right? I'm Tahar. If I'm a person now, right? I was a Rishon because I touched the sheretz. Before mikveh, if I would have touched this would have become a Sheni. Now I went to the mikveh, I come out, I touched this, nothing happened. But if I touch Truma, the Truma still becomes possible because I'm a Tvul Yoim. Tvul Yoim means I went to the mikveh, but it's still day. Tvul, I was Tavul, but it's Yoim. It's still the same day. Before nightfall, if I touch this cracker, it's nothing. I'm already tar. But if I touch Truma, the Truma became a Shlishi. Because a Tvul Yoim has something of the Geder of a Sheni. In other words, I'm clean, but I'm quasi-clean. I still have little Tumah in me. What type of Tumah? Similar to a Sheni, in the sense that if I touch Truma, it becomes a Shlishi. And that's why Tvul Yoim is not allowed to eat Truma, Kohen. Like we learned from the Mishnah, what does it mean? People learn the Mishnah when the Kohen can eat Truma. Kohen doesn't have to eat Truma at night. You can eat Truma for breakfast. It means when the Kohen was Tameh and he went to the Mikveh, he has to wait till night to eat Truma because he's a Tvul Yoim. Tvul Yoim, again, remember the words. He's Tavul, He went to the mikveh, but it's yoim. It's still the same day, and therefore the tumah still remains a little bit, in the sense that if he touches truma or karbonis, he disqualifies that food. No, that's min ha-Torah. Yeah. That a tvul yoim is not allowed to eat is min ha-Torah. We'll see. Yeah. The truma is so sensitive. The truma is so sensitive that since it's the same day of the tumah, like I explained yesterday, that when you're in the same day, even if you went to the mikveh, there's an impact of the tumah till night. Because night is a new day, a new energy. Halach is very sensitive. You know, we don't look at sunrise and sunset very much anymore. Because we live in Thomas Edison's world of electricity and light bulbs and this. But in real life, sunrise, sunset, that's how nature works. All the animals do that, you know. You'll listen 8:30, go out to your yard in Monsey, and all the birds are coming home, right? They don't say there's a Malava Malka tonight, Maidev is late, there's a Shalom Zocha, there's a Wachnacht, Evergreen is open till 12 o'clock, there's a bar. That doesn't work that way. Das is Meshugasen. Night, you go home. You go home, you go to sleep. That's what all the birds know. In other words, they follow the rhythm of the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's the concept of Vasikin, right? Vasikin means the sun is about to rise. Now it's time to say Shman and Gal Yisrael, Shman Esra. So Tvul Yom is a very important thing. Even though I went to the mikveh, but I'm still in the day when I was Tameh. So there's something that remains. Night comes, Harav Shemesh comes, and I'm good. And that's what the case. I'm not a Tvul Yom anymore, and I can eat Truma from that night. When is Harav Shemesh? Harav Shemesh is the night. Harav Shemesh means when the sun goes down, right? Harav Shemesh, the sun goes down, sunset, nightfall, and that's when I'm not a Tvul Yom anymore. What's important to emphasize is one more detail, and that is called Mechusar Kippurim. What's Mechusar Kippurim? There are 4 Avos HaTumah that don't become Tahar, even after Mikveh and after nightfall completely. They have to wait until something else happens because they have to bring a carbon. And you couldn't bring a carbon by night. All carbonas had to be done by day. There was no avoid in the Beis HaMikdash at night. Only leftover carbonas that were burning on the altar, but there was no new avoid at night. Who are these? A Zav and a Zava, a Metzora and a Yeledes. Remember, Zav and Zav are male or female who have a certain irregular flow from the lower parts of their body, which represents a tumah. Yoledes is, of course, a mother who gives birth. Metzora is a leper, male or female. They have to bring a carbon. So for them, going to the mikveh is important. Nightfall is important. But they still did not finish their cleansing process till tomorrow. It's called Mechusar Kippurim. You're missing atonement. Mechusar means chasar, you're lacking. Kippurim from the word kapara, like Yom HaKippurim, you're missing atonement. So after I went to the mikveh, the day after, I bring a carbon, and from that time, from nightfall till after I bring my carbon, I'm called Mechusar Kippurim. And what does this mean? If I touch this, nothing happens. I already went to the mikveh. If I touch Truma, nothing happens. It's already nightfall. But if I touch a carbon, it becomes puzzle. So I can only make a carbon puzzle until I bring a carbon. When I'm at Tvul Yom, before nightfall, I can't even touch Truma because the Truma is sensitive. But when nightfall already, Truma is good. I can touch Truma. But I'm still tummy in the sense that I can't touch the meat of carbonas until tomorrow morning when I bring my carbon, and now everything is over. Now you're back to complete state of Tahara, everything is over, now you can touch whatever you want. Carbonas, eat carbonas, touch carbonas, it's all good. Yeah, well, a living animal, I don't care. A living animal can't get tameh. Right. Yes. Right. A living animal will never be makabel tumah. Ever. The problem is after this animal is slaughtered, right? And they sprinkle the blood, then I could touch the meat because I'm already done. Right. You have to wait till the next day. That's called mechus. So we have tvul yom. What's tvul yom? Tvul yom, verstehst the difference? Tvul Yom is till night. Mechusar Kippurim is till the next day. I'm missing Kippurim. The words are very meticulous. Mechusar Kippurim. I'm missing Kapara. Verstandig? Das ist nicht so, das. Ah? Ja, es ist nicht so schreckend, sagt er. Mechusse Kippurim, huh? Really? Mechusse Kippurim Tful Yom. Okay. Let's also remember. Huh? Gemolin. Grinding. I know what gemolin. Okay. Okay, here we try to be masak in everything. We try to bring a tikkun to the whole world. Tikkun. Gewaldig. Ah, beautiful. Okay, now let's remember. Let's remember, what do I do with truma that I can't eat? What do I do with karbonas that I can't eat? I touched it. I was at Tvul Yom. I touched the truma. By mistake, let's say. I'm a kohen. I was hungry. I forgot. I went to the pantry. I took out the wrong cookies. Instead of taking out... which cookies do you eat? Instead of taking out the regular cookies, I took out my truma cookies. Right? I was a kohen. I forgot. I was at Tvul Yom. I forgot. So now my truma cookies are possible because I'm a kohen. I was at Tvul Yom. I didn't wait till the night. And remember, Tumah doesn't have to do with Shoyge Gemezit. It's not like it's tummy because you wanted it. Right? It's not about Shoyge Gemezit. It's about the facts. If I touched it, I may be the most innocent guy in the world. Again, Tumah is not about somebody being bad or evil. It's like a germ. You say, but I didn't mean to pass on the germ to you. I know you didn't mean you're a good guy. It's just this thing became tummy. The Tumah became tummy. So Truma and Karbonas that become tummy, the halacha is that you have to burn them. You have to burn them. You're not allowed to just leave them around and not eat them. You have to burn them. But there's a big difference between a carbon that becomes tummy, the meat of a carbon that becomes tummy, and truma that becomes tummy. What's the difference? When a carbon becomes tummy and I burn it, I'm not allowed to benefit from the fire. I make a fire and I burn it. Truma, when I burn, the kohen is allowed to benefit from the truma while it's being burnt. For example, let's say it's oil of truma, and the truma became tameh. I don't just make a fire and throw the oil into the fire. I can use the oil for my Hanukkah candle, or for my Shabbos candle. I'm a kohen. It's oil. I can't eat the oil because it's tameh, it's truma. I have to burn it, but I can enjoy the burning. I can use it as the fuel for my lamp. So my Shabbos candles are burning. My Hanukkah candles are burning from what? From truma oil that I'm not allowed to eat because it's tameh, but I'm allowed to have anah. With kachim oil, I can't do that. I can't have anah from it while it's being burnt. When it comes to chulin, you don't have to burn it. Chulin that's tameh, you can eat. It's fine. You have to know that it's tameh. But, No. But a regular Jew can eat chulin. I don't care if it's tameh. I don't care if it's pasul. You have to know that it's tameh. And the rabbis made a tumah. Yeah, because no, because the food is a rishon or a sheni, and I can't become a sheni. So even if I touch the food to eat it, it's fine, right? And if you stick it into my mouth, I didn't even touch it. We'll see later that the rabbis imposed a tumah that if you eat oichel tameh, right, or drink mashkin tameh, there's a tumah on you. It's a completely rabbinic tumah, completely not biblical. It's a special tumah that they made, and there was a reason for it. Like a sheni. Yeah. It's a lower level of tumah. The reason they did this is because they were very much afraid. They were very much afraid that a kohen is, let's say, eating truma, right? He's eating truma. And then he wants to eat chulin that's tameh. So it's not a problem, l'chayre, right? Because what's going to happen? He's not going to get tameh. Nothing is going to happen to him. It's fine. But if I put it into my mouth, it could be metameh the truma, right? And they were very afraid of that. Let's say for dinner, yeah? My wife is serving chicken and rice, and there's, of course, a little piece of bread. The chicken and rice happen to be tameh, for whatever reason, okay? Now I put the bread into my mouth, what happens? the truma becomes a shlishi from the chulin that's a sheni, right? So the truma is tummy, so now the kohen has to throw up the truma, which you don't want to happen. You're not allowed to have truma become tummy. They were very afraid of this. So just 1 second. You have to understand how they looked at it. Tumah and Tahara were part of people's lives. So what did they do? They made a takana that if you eat chulin that's tameh, you become tameh. You become a sheni. So you won't be able to eat truma because you're going to touch the truma. Truma is going to be a shlishi. So a kohen would never have this problem. It was a very interesting takana. You understand? It's very simple. If I'm a kohen, yeah, and I'm drinking this, and this happens to be tameh. It happens to be tameh. Let's say it was in a house, there was a bottle of wine, and a mace died, and the wine is now tameh. Let's say it's a rishon, right? It can't make me tameh. So the kohen could drink it. The kohen is drinking it, yeah? Chaim, he drinks. Now he wants a little fabaisen. So he takes a cracker, which is truma. It goes into his mouth. It touches the wine. So what happens? The truma became a shlishi now. Or a sheni, depends on the level of tumah of the food. If he swallowed it completely, but what if there's still a little bit in the mouth?
But he doesn't become.
He doesn't. So they were very afraid that the truma is going to mix with tameh food in your mouth, and you're not allowed to do that because you're making it tameh. You understand? Yeah, not to be metameh truma is an ism in Torah. So they wanted a buffer zone. What was the buffer zone? The buffer zone is if you eat chulin that's tameh, you're allowed to, but you become tameh. So the kohen knows if I drink this, I'm tameh now, like a sheni. So if I put in a cracker to me and I touch it, it's a shlishi. I'll never do it. That way they avoided this whole problem. It never happened. Min Torah. You toifus? No, kachim. From truma, I burn it. Yeah. No. Yeah. Remember that Kohanim mingled with everybody. It was one nation, so everybody was mingling with everybody. So that's why there was so much sensitivity. Yeah. And truma was what the Kohanim eat. The Kohanim didn't have revenue. They didn't have, their real estate and fields and this. Everything they had was from the food that we gave, that the Israelim gave them, and much of that was truma. 2% of your grain, 2% of your produce, 2% of your fruits, 2% of your vegetables, you had to give to a kohen. Everybody. And he made that was truma. That was holy food. I'm not allowed to eat it, but he has to eat it. Right? And he's not allowed to make it tummy. He has to guard it.
So what if we do with someone?
So as long as it didn't become an edible food, it can't get tummy. That's a problem. That's a big problem. He has to use it for fuel. Yeah. It went so far, you have to understand. Do you know that there's a tumah that the Chazal made on all Sifrei Torah and Kisvei HaKodesh? You had a Sefer Torah in your basement, they made it tumah. It's Matameh Hayadayim. You know why? Because people used to store two things together. They wanted things that are holy to be together. So if you had Megillah scrolls of Sifrei Torah Tanakh, you put it together with the Truma. It was like a corner of holy stuff. Mice don't care if it's truma or not truma. For whatever reason, the mice never learned to keep Chanina's gana Kohanim. I don't know why, but the mice never learned it. They see food, they come. So they came to the truma. Once there's truma, mice also like parchment and paper. You ever saw what they do to parchment and paper? So the Kisvei HaKodesh were now eaten up by the mice. So what did the Chazal say? That the Kisvei HaKodesh will make the truma apostle. They'll be metameh the truma. You understand? That's how they protected it. I'm saying all these types of takanas that was dealing with part of people's lives. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. That's the last thing I want to say. When a mace is called avi avois hatumah, it's the one exception where you could be an av hatumah even though you're not the creator of the tumah. When I touch a mace, I become an av hatumah. I didn't create the tumah. I touched it, but I become an av hatumah. What does that mean practically? That if I touch you, you become a rishon. If I would have been a rishon, you would be nothing because you're an adam. But since I became an av, So now the Chumash says in Chukas, when I touch somebody else, he becomes a Rishon L'Tumah. Because by me touching the mace, I become an Avatumah. But it goes even more than that. The Pasuk tells us, if somebody was, let's say, killed with a sword, right? It's called Chalal Cherev. We'll see the Psukim later. That sword has the same status of the mace.
Same story.
Avia voice. Avia voice. That's a unique halacha. The sword, the metal keli that touches the mace is like the mace itself. Avia voice atoma. Matches, yeah, metal. 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 Metal, yeah. Metal.
You said the story with the Chaim that went out.
Yeah.
It's not that he touched it, he killed it.
Right, but from there we learn a yisoid that which becomes tamei becomes like the source of tumah. That's the chiddush here. So that means the metal vessel that touched the mace assumes the quality of avi avois hatuma and the expression of Chazal, cherev harehu kecholol. The sword is like the victim. The sword has the same status of the victim. So now what happens? If I touch the sword, I become an avatuma because the sword is like the mace. We'll see the reason for it. It's a fascinating halacha. Like, why? It's a keli. It's a metal keli, but it's like the mace itself. Here's where the rule of electricity works, right? Suddenly the electricity passes, so to speak, and the keli itself can electrify me. Even though I'm not touching the mace, I'm touching only the keli. What happens if I touch the mace? I'm an avatuma, right? Now a metal keli touches me. So what happens? The same thing. It becomes an avatuma. So this is fascinating. Because the din with a mace is that the metal keli that comes in contact with the source of tumah assumes the same quality. So if he touches the mace, he becomes an avi avois and he makes me an av. If he touches me, I touch the mace, the keli becomes an av and touches a person, he makes him a risha. That's a unique halacha by cherev, which is a paradigm for clay matches, metal utensils. No, metal utensils.
What about mashkin that touches a cherev?
So now if the mashkin touches the cherev that touched me, right? So the mashkin becomes a rishon. And if that mashkin touches the cracker becomes a sheni. The cracker, right? And if that touches trumah, it goes on and on. So that's a big chiddush, because I touched a mace. You would think that I'm a rishon. No, I'm an avatuma, because I touched the mace. Now I touch the keli. You would think the keli should be a rishon. I'm an av, he's a rishon. No. And if he's a rishon, he can't be metama a person. We say, no, the keli is an av hatuma itself. As we'll see.
And it's only by mashkin.
So we'll soon see that there's a shitta, that this is true about all kelim besides clay cheres, earthenware vessels. Like in all of these, there's a lot of details, but that's a shitta that it's all kelim besides earthenware vessels are not part of this equation. Earthenware vessels means it was made of mud, earth, water, straw, and baked in the sun. That's called clay cheres. It's called earthenware pottery, clay cheres. Today, maze clay cheres? Look, chimaf is a lot complicated. Okay? You take earth, you take water, you mix it together, you have mud. You make a nice bowl, yeah? Azoy mud, meyeshen, yeah? You put in straw to keep it as a stronger. You put it under the sun. A hot summer day, at 100 degrees we had last Friday, Shabbos. You put it under the sun a couple of hours, amachaya. Beautiful bowl. That was the cheapest type of keli to make, which was still chashiv because you just needed mud, and mud doesn't cost money. That's why clay cheres was so popular. If you go to the east, you'll still see a lot of earthenware pottery. People bring it home, tourists always bring it. You know what clay cheres are, right? You'll see it always in the museums in Israel. It was a very, very common clay cheres. That has different halachas.
What do you call it, a cholol? I thought that was an empty space.
Cholol is also kiyimotze cholol ba'adam. It also means a slain victim. A slain victim, a slain human being is called a cholol. That's the dead corpse is avi avois hatuma. Yeah, so we'll soon learn about klei cheres, but klei matches that touches a mace assumes the quality of the mace. And if the klei matches touches the person who touched the mace, the klei matches becomes an avatuma. Klei cheres will have a different halacha, as we will see. Ooh, Beseches Yuma. That's a crazy story. Yuma Dav Chav Gimel. Oh, one kohen stabbed another kohen, the Gemarah says, right? It's a very sad story. One kohen stabbed another, of course, in the name of religion. Yeah, because he wanted to do the avodah, and you took away the avodah from me. So what do? I stab you, no? That's the right thing to do, he thought. So he stabs him in his chest. The boy, who was a young kohen, the Gemarah calls him a tinok, was still alive. So the father said, yeah, he's still alive. So the knife is not tameh. Once he would be dead, the knife would be avi avois hatumah. But he's alive, so take out the knife, and the knife will be tar. Because when somebody is alive, they're not metame. A person is not metame when he's alive, unless he's a mitzayra or a zav or a zava or a nido or yeledis, whatever. Right? So take out the knife. And that's what the Gemarah says, that at that time, the Tahara of Kalim was more important than Shvichas Damim. Yeah. Yeah, he stabbed him with a knife, a shchita knife. Kli sharis, yeah. And the Gemarah wants to bring out how immoral people were, that ritual purity and impurity of knives was more important than killing an innocent person. It's about the danger of religion that is divorced from the source. And therefore, killing somebody becomes less important than the sakin being pure. In our society, this is unheard of course, but we have glimmers of it. Sometimes I could stab somebody in the name of religion. Not physically, but emotionally. I'll insult, I'll stab, I'll destroy, and I'll say, the main thing is the avodah should be done by me. So that happens. That's the concept. That you have to have priority. Okay. Literally, chalal means emptiness. I think the reason it's called chalal is because when somebody is stabbed, you pashut create a cavity, you create an emptiness, and also the blood runs out, so the person is now empty of blood. The void of blood, yeah. The Gemarah says why when you embarrass somebody in public, it's like murder, right? Because the blood actually, right? The blood gathers into the person, blushes and gets embarrassed because the blood gathers into the face. It also creates a chalal. The blood is supposed to circulate around the whole body. It's not supposed to be concentrated in the face. Oh, white draining, you're right. Also chalal, yeah. So it drains out. Huh?
I thought it was because the neshamas not there.
Yeah. So you kill a soul, you kill a person's dignity. We also have to remember two terms, pasul and tameh. Very important. What's the difference? This was the terms Chazal used in order to bring out all of these halachas. When something can pass on the tumah to the next generation, it's called tameh. When something is tameh, but it will not pass it on, it'll hold it on to itself, it'll contain it, but it will not pass it on, it's called pasul. Pasul means it's disqualified, I can't eat it. But if it touches something else, that thing is good. It's called pasul. Tameh means it's contaminated in the sense that if I touch it, I'll also be affected by it. That's the difference always, tameh. But that's why truma shlishi will be called pasul, not tameh. Karbanis revi will be called pasul, not tameh. Right? But mashkin rishon will be called tameh because it still has energy to pass on. So there's always a difference between tameh and pasul. Truma shlishi that touches kachim will make the kachim pasul. But we will still call the truma pasul, not tameh, because if it touches other truma, nothing will happen. In other words, if you cannot transfer the tumah to something of your nature, we're going to call you pasul. You understand? If you could transfer it to something of your nature, we're going to call you tameh. So truma shlishi will always be called pasul. Revi of kachim will always be called pasul. But shlishi of kachim will be called tameh. Because if it touches another carbon, it will pass on the tumah. It's still not completely diffused.
So there's an entire touch and the rest pile is
That's a good question. When you have a big pile of food and you touch a little bit of the food, So then usually, if it's all connected, if it's cohesive, the whole thing gets affected. All the food will become disqualified.
Even the fact that, it's not transmitting itself. So only
Right. If you have two piles of food and they're disconnected, then the other one won't be affected. There is an interesting takana of Chazal, Hakeli mitzaref masha b'soichei lekodesh avaloi letruma, which means if I have a big bowl and I have two mountains of dough, right? They're not connected. So if tumah touches one, the other one shouldn't be affected, right? But by karbonos, the keli, because they're in one vessel, the keli is mitzari of them. It combines them that the other dough also gets affected. But that's a special rabbinic stringency by karbonos.
Get a lot of special.
Huh?
Is that why when we take challah today, we're going to take challah and burn it?
Yeah. Challah is like truma.
Should make a list.
When we separate challah, it's really truma. In the olden days, if Kohanim would be pure, right, we would give them the challah and they would eat it. It was a very valuable thing for them. Every Kohen, Erev Shabbos, got all the challah in the world, right? You had a neighbor, he got from 4 neighbors, the other Kohen got from another 4 neighbors, everybody had challah for Shabbos. You gave your challah, I gave my challah. Now we have a real Kohen. We have a bas Kohen, now we have a real Kohen. I don't mean you're a bas Kohen, I mean you're... Okay, so we have a lot sach gedusha. So we would give Rabbi Yeruchim the challah, and he would have he would have more challah than everybody else. But because today challah has to be eaten in purity, just like truma, so we burn it. That's mamish what we do. We burn the challah.
Because we take on it.
Yeah. Right. Because you're not allowed to eat truma tmei. It's a very serious issur. Even suffik tamei, you're not allowed to eat it. So that's why we don't eat truma and we don't eat challah. Comes the Mishnah and says, Reb Chanina Segan HaKohanim Omer. Reb Chanina Segan HaKohanim says. Now you know what Segan HaKohanim is. Reb Chanina was a Jew who lived at the end of Bayis Sheni, the end of the second Beis HaMikdash. He was a Kohen, but he wasn't only a Kohen, he was a Segan HaKohanim. There was a position in the Beis HaMikdash known as Kohen Gadol and Segan Kohen Gadol. Segan Kohen Gadol meant the deputy of the Kohen Gadol and the assistant of the Kohen Gadol. He would basically be together with the Kohen Gadol. If something happened to the Kohen Gadol, let's say the Kohen Gadol suddenly got tameh, got disqualified, whatever his issue, he falls, he breaks, whatever happens, you need a Kohen Gadol. So therefore the Segan would take over. He was like the Kavayachal, the vice president, and in a time of crisis, he would become the president. So this was the Segan Kohen Gadol, and he was like his assistant also, like the second, his right-hand man. Reb Chanina was a Segan Kohen Gadol at the end of Bayis Sheni. So just to add, Reb Chanina was murdered by the Romans. He was murdered by the Romans, and in Shulchan Aruch, Chaim Siman Tov Kuf Pei, the date of his murder is given, Chaf Hei Sivan, I think it is, from Megillas Tainus. Reb Chanina was murdered on Chaf Hei Sivan by the Romans. According to some, he's even part of the Asar Arugei Malchus, even though the list of Asar Malchus is not so clear, and in most of the lists he's not there. But he was certainly one of the great people, one of the great Jews who was murdered during the time of the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash, and that's the date that Shulchan Aruch gives in Tov Kuf Pei, as one of the days that people used to fast. Chaf Hei Sivan, I think it is, I'm almost sure, Chaf Hei Sivan. And this was Reb Chanina Segan HaKohanim. This was a daily position. A daily position. Right. The question is, why is he called Segan HaKohanim? There was only one Kohen Gadol. What should it be called? Segan HaKohen or Segan Kohen Gadol. In Maseches Yuma, we have an expression very often, Segan Kohen Gadol. Why is he called Segan HaKohanim? He's not a Segan of Kohanim, he's a Segan of one Kohen. No, was sagst du? So there's a sefer called Zichron Meir by Reb Meir Shapiro. Reb Meir Shapiro was the founder of Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin, right? The author of Daf Yomi. So Reb Meir Shapiro says, remember when this happened. This is the end of Bayis Sheni. The Kohuna G'dayla was for sale. It was corrupt. First the Chashmonai family, and then the Romans and the Tzdukim and the Romans, they would buy it. They would sell the position. Very often the Gemarah says that over the years the Kohanim G'dalim would always die. They would go into Kodesh HaKadoshim and never come out because they weren't worthy. But Reb Chanina was a tzaddik, so he was Segan HaKohanim. He remained. The Kohanim changed, but the Segan remained, Right? They say, Lahavdil, that the secretary of the White House lives out all the presidents, right? The presidents come and go every. Who runs the country? The secretary. Right? Some offices, the secretary runs the show. The president comes and goes 4 years, 4 years, 4 years. The secretary remains. Lahavdi Reb Chanina was Gan HaKohanim. He saw a lot of Kohanim come and go. But he remained as Gan Kohen Gadol. Nobody threw him out of his position. He wasn't the Kohen Gadol. He wasn't the boss. So he remains Gan HaKohanim. So his testimony is very valuable because he was there. He saw it. Yeah. I don't think we know the year that he was killed. I never saw. No, just the date of the year they remembered the date as the yard site, and the day of fasting, but not. I never saw. I didn't see the year. So Reb Chanina Gan HaKohanim, and Reb Chanina Gan HaKohanim says something fascinating, and that is Miyameim Shel Kohanim, all the days of the Kohanim. No, it's not something that I saw once. I saw it throughout all the days of the Kohanim. Lo nimnu milisref es habasar shenitma bevlad hatumah im habasar shenitma be'av hatumah afal pisha moisifin tumah al tumasai. They never prevented themselves from burning the meat of a carbon that became tamei through a vlad hatumah. Now we know exactly what this means. A vlad hatumah means the basar touched a rishon. So the basar became a sheni. A vlad is a child of tumah, not an av, a child. The Av is the Av. The Vlad is the Rishon. The carbon meat touched a Rishon of Tumah. So let's give an example. A person touched a sheretz, right? And then the person touched the basar. The basar now is nitma bevlad hatumah. The basar touched a Rishon, and the basar became a sheni. They had to burn it. It's tamei. They had to burn it. What did I see them do? I saw them make a fire and put together in the fire this meat together with meat that was nitma ba'avatuma. The meat itself touched an avatuma, and that meat became rishon. And I saw them combine together the two meats, make one, what is it called? A pyre, what is it called? Bonfire, what's the word? A pyre, Yeah, how do you pronounce it? A pyre, yeah? And throw it in. Atagam lamed anglit pa. Pyres, even though they were moisif tumah on the tumah. They were moisif tumah, meaning the basar that was tamei with a lenient tumah now became more tamei with a more stringent tumah. And you would think that's a problem because you're not allowed to be metamei. You have to be careful with truma and kachim that it shouldn't be tamei, and they're being moisif tumah. They didn't care. Why didn't they care? Because it was being burnt. You're asking a good question. A very good question. That's going to be the first question of the Gemarah. The whole thing doesn't seem to make sense. Because I have basar, let's say this is basar, and it's a sheni, right? It's a sheni. I have basar, that's a rishon. So you're telling me if this touches this, it'll become a sheni. So it's not becoming worse. It's just continuing to be what it is. So what's the big deal? Why would they even think that you're not allowed to do it? He's saying, Moisifin tumah al tamasa. There's something very strange here. If sheni touches a rishon, what happens? It's still a sheni. It's not going to become a rishon. So what's the issue? You had basar that touched an av, so it was a rishon. Okay, you have to burn it. You have basar that touched a rishon, so it's a sheni. So you don't want to bring the two together. Why not? What's the problem? The rishon will make the sheni a sheni. It's anyway a sheni. Oh, so he's saying that because they were burning it, they didn't care to increase tumah. The question you're asking is they're not increasing tumah. That's a great question. The Gemarah is going to ask it. Okay, it's going to be the first question of the Gemarah. It's a great question. But that's what the Chanina testified, that the Kohanim were never bothered. Now this is a chiddush. Why? Because you're not allowed to make kachim tameh. But when they were burning it, they didn't care. Somehow they felt that here there was no problem because it's being burnt anyway.
You're not allowed to raise the status.
You're not allowed to raise the status if it's not being burnt. But if it's being burnt, you're allowed to raise the status of tumah. Hoysef Rabbi Akiva v'amar. Rabbi Akiva added and said, Miyameim shel Kohanim, all the days of the Kohanim, lo nimnu milahadlikas Hashem and shenifsal betful yoim, b'neir shenitma b'tmei meis, afal pishem esifin tumah al tumasai. Let me tell you something else. There was oil that became pasul betful yoim. What do we mean betful yoim? somebody who was Tameh and came back from the mikveh, but night didn't happen, touched the oil, and the oil was oil of truma. This oil is called nifsal. Now you right away see the difference of the language. The first time it was basar shenitma. Now it was what? Shemen shenifsal. Why not nitma? We understand why. Because basar shenitma bevlada tumah is a carrier. It's nitma bevlada tumah. It's a sheni. It's still a carrier. It can carry on. Shlishi revi. But shemen shenifsal b'tful yom is not a carrier. It's a problem, but it's not a carrier. That's why it's nifsal. So this shemen now became pasul. The shemen is a shlishi. They had to burn it. You know what they would do with the shemen? They would put it in a neir, a lamp. This lamp became tamei b'tmei mace. The lamp touched a person who touched a mace. The person is an avatuma. The lamp, if it's a clay cheretz, if it's an earthenware, the Gemarah, this doesn't say here the word clay cheretz, but I'm just adding that. You'll see why. If it's a clay cheretz, if it's an earthenware, what's the neir? A rishon. The neir touched me. It's my lamp. It's earthenware. I touched the mace. I'm an av. The neir is a rishon. I take the oil that a tvul yom touched, which was a shlishi, and I fill the lamp with the oil. Right? What happens now? And I light the fire. I put in a wick, and I light the fire, and I'm enjoying the light. What happened? The shemen just became a sheni. It touched the neir, which was a keli. The keli was a rishon. The keli made the mashkin, the shemen, a sheni. Because a keli, that's a rishon, could be metame mashkin, which become a sheni. So what happened now? I elevated the status of tumah from shlishi that it was originally to sheni. Why? Because I want to burn it. I want to burn the oil. I'm also going to enjoy it. And that's why you see the difference of the two stories. In the first story, what did they do with the basar? Lisroiv, they burnt it. In the second story, they didn't just burn it, they put it in a lamp because you can enjoy it. You don't have to burn it stam. You can burn it and allow it to give you hana, to generate light. So Rabbi Akiva says they didn't mind. I myself in Tumah al Tamasai. They made the shemen more tamei, and it's truma. You're not allowed to make it more tamei. The answer is because we're burning it. You want to know what's Rabbi Akiva adding? It's already Rabbi Chanina said the same thing. What's the difference? Good question. Good question. The frek's good to shilas. Why is he adding? He's just repeating the same thing in a different scenario. Right? Very good question. Says the Mishnah. Amar Reb Meir said, Midivreihem lamadnu. From their words, whose words? Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Akiva, we learn, Shesoyfin truma tahara matmeya bepesach. That's how it comes into Pesachim. It's Erev Pesach. I have chametz. I'm a kohen. I have truma tahara. I have a bunch of chalas that are truma. They're pure, but it's chametz. Pesach, you're not allowed to have chametz, even truma. You have to burn truma. I also have chametz that's truma, but it's tameh. Got tameh. What do I do? So Reb Meir says you can make a fire and throw in together the chametz dika truma that's tahar and the chametz dika truma that's tameh. If it's not chametz, you're not allowed to burn it. It's truma. You have to eat it while you're burning it. Eat it if it's tahar. But it's chametz, so you have to burn it even if it's pure. Throw it together in the fire. When you throw it together, this challah is going to touch this challah. So what's going to happen? The tameh dika truma is going to be metameh. The Torah de Ketruma, I don't care. It's fine. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Einei Amida. Rabbi Yossi says you got it wrong. You did not touch up Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Chanina right. Einei min Amida. Einei hi Amida. This, you cannot learn out this halacha from what they said. It's not true. You're not allowed to burn Truma Tahara with Truma. Make two separate fires. Make a fire for Tahar Truma, make a fire for Tamei Truma. And he says, Rabbi Yossi says, Umaydim Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua. He brings in out two names. Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua Maida. Even though they have an argument, which we'll soon see what their argument is, they have a big argument. But I want you to know that they're both Maida. Shesorf and Zula Atzma v'Zula Atzma. They have arguments. We're soon going to see what the argument is. But they agree with me that you have to burn every chametz separate. Truma Tahira and Truma Tmeya, you have to burn separately. Alma nechleku, what do they argue about? Not this case. So Rabbi Meir said you could burn everything together. Rabbi Yossi said that's not true. You're not allowed to. And even Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua who have an argument, I'll tell you what it is. They agree with me that you make two separate pyres, two separate fires for the Truma. Alman nechleku, what do they disagree? Al hatluya. Truma which was suspended. Truma suspended means it's a suffix Tumah. You have Truma, you're not sure it became Tumah. You don't know. It could be yes, it could be not. It's a suffix. This is called tluya. Tluya means hanging, in limbo. Why is it hanging? You can't eat it because it may be Tumah. You're not allowed to eat Tumah Truma. You can't burn it. There's certainly no mitzvah to burn it. Why not? Because it may be pure Truma. So it's called tluya. It basically is hanging. That's what it is.
What do you do with it?
Huh? Nothing. You wait till it gets tummy. You wait till it gets disposed, decayed, or tummy. There's nothing you can do with it. You don't burn it because it may be tar. You don't eat it because it may be tummy. So a whole year it's called tluya. Besides Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach, you burn it because you burn even regular truma because it's chametz. So what happens? It's called tluya. So they had an argument. Al tluya, when you have truma of chametz that's suffix tuma, valatmeya, and you have truma that's for sure tameh. Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Lezer says you can't burn them together. Erev Pesach they have to be burnt separate. Rabbi Yeshua you can burn them together in the same fire. The truma tluya is going to touch the truma tmeya, and it's going to become certainly tameh, right? Nonetheless, Rabbi Yeshua says you can burn them together. In other words, Rabbi Lezer holds that even truma, that's a suffix tameh, you have to protect, and you're not allowed to allow it to become tameh. And that's why, even when you're burning it, Erev Pesach, it has to be zula atzma v'zula atzma. You have to make two separate fires, because you're not allowed to make it vaday tameh. Rabbi Yeshua holds, since it's not edible anyway, you don't have to protect it, and therefore you could be at matameh. What's the machlokes? Rebbe Lezer holds that the reason you're not allowed to be metame truma is, the reason you're not allowed to be metame the truma tluya is because even though it's a suffix and you're not allowed to eat it, right? I don't care. It's not allowed to become tameh. Maybe it's tameh, but maybe it's not. Rabbi Yeshua says, since you can't eat it anyway, so I don't care if you metame it. I don't care if you metame it. So that's a big machlokes because you're not going to eat it. Rabbi Shmuel holds even if it's a suffix tumah, you're not allowed to make it a vaday tumah. You can't eat it anyway. I don't care. Even if you can't eat it and you're not going to eat it, you're not allowed to make it tameh. You're not allowed to make truma tameh. You're not going to eat it. So what's the difference? If it's tar, I understand. If you make it tameh, you're taking away the mitzvah of eating it. But here you're anyway not taking away the mitzvah. But Rabbi Lezer holds it's a mitzvah be'etzem. You're not allowed to make the truma tameh. I don't care if you're not eating it anyway. Rabbi Yeshua says no. You're not allowed to make truma tameh if it's tar, because then you're taking away the mitzvah of eating. But here you're not taking away a mitzvah. It's a problem anyway. I don't care if you make it tameh. It's like regular food. I don't care if this becomes tameh. You can make it tameh be a diet. So Rabbi Yeshua says, what do you care if Erev Pesach you burn them together so it becomes tameh? So what? Even not Erev Pesach you can make it tameh, because Rabbi Yeshua holds the reason is it's basically because you're taking away the mitzvah of eating. You're disqualifying it as a food. And truma you're supposed to eat, but you're anyway not eating it. So who cares? So b'meila burn it together. But that's all if it's what? If it's a suffix. But if it's vaday tahar, nobody says you're allowed to burn them separate. Even Rabbi Yeshua says you're not allowed to burn them separate. Rabbi Yossi argues, why? Because here, when you're making a tameh, what are you doing? You're actually killing the ability to eat. It's about to be burnt. It's about to be burned. But now you're making a tameh. You're not allowed to do that, even though it's Erev Pesach. So therefore, Rabbi Yossi argues with Rabbi Meir. He says, even Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua agree with me. They argue about tluya, but not about vaday. Rabbi Meir disagrees. Rabbi Meir says, you're right, you're not allowed to be metame truma. When are you not allowed to be metame truma? A whole year. But if it's Erev Pesach, and it's about to be burnt anyway, so that din is suspended, and therefore, you are allowed to burn it together with the tameh. Which is similar to Rabbi Yossi, to Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Chanina, who said you're allowed to increase a tumah. Rabbi Meir said midivreim labmadu, and Rabbi Yossi argued with this last detail, and he said it's not true. Do not compare this to the din of Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Akiva. This is the Mishnah, and the Gemara is going to go on to explain all of the details of the Mishnah, which seem intricate and a lot of challenges as we will move on and explore Be'ezer Hashem.
This class is brought to you by the yeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.